So I'm on the sidewalk. I get hit by a car at the busiest time of day.
Yep.
On the busiest street in that area.
In that area.
Flew into oncoming traffic. They said there's no way if someone got hit on this road at this time at rush hour that they would be alive. And they showed us what it was like to actually be a Christian outside of a Sunday.
Even like when you were flatline, I was still praying that, like, God, like, I will serve you.
Grew up in a very abusive, chaotic, horrible situation, and nobody knew what was going on.
Your mom started going to church to save your life.
From a nut allergy.
From a nut allergy, but really it snowballs into saving your life spiritually.
He can use absolutely any part of your life, and I'm determined that that will be my story, that any part of my life will be used for his glory. Welcome to FTK, a podcast for the kingdom. My name is Jade, and I am so excited for all the stories that you are going to hear over the course of this podcast. Our hope and our prayer is that it inspires the believer to go out and share their story of all the miraculous, crazy things the Lord has done in your life, how he's healed you, how he set you free, how he's given you a peace that surpasses all understanding. We truly believe, like it says in Revelation 12, verse 11, that we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the power of our testimony. We truly believe your story can change lives, so go out there and share your story. And our prayer and our hope for the unbeliever is that in the midst of whatever your situation is right now, whether you're feeling lost or hopeless or empty, we hope these stories are a living proof to you of a God who is still alive, of a God who is still changing lives and setting people free. And that hope is not only available for the people that you're listening to, but that hope is available to you as well. And it can only be found in Jesus. So let's get on with the podcast. I'm so excited for the story you're about to hear. Don't be awkward.
Not being awkward.
Okay. Well, welcome back to FTK. We have a special guest with us here today, and he
How's it going?
is not a camera guy, so he is feeling Akko Taco over there, but this is my husband, DJ. He is not here actually to share his testimony or his story, but he is here to host the podcast today.
And help the conversation.
Help the conversation, which is so funny because if you know him, he's a pretty quiet guy.
I am.
Pretty quiet guy. So let's all just give a round of applause for DJ for being here today. We'll get over our awkwardness of filming.
How's the sound effect budget? You're going to have applause?
I'm editing all these, and we all know that my editing skills are below that of probably a grade 9. So no, there'll actually be no applause. But anyways, so we have DJ here today. He's going to host the podcast. I figured I have been asking so many people to share their testimony and their story. And I think, is it fair to ask them if I'm not also willing to share my own testimony? So that is how we got here today, and that is why we have DJ, because he's going to host while I share a little bit about my story.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. You have a credible testimony and story, and I think it is very relatable to people from all over the place, many different walks of life, so I think we're excited to hear it.
Thanks. I think that's funny that you say that, because I'm always so hesitant to share my testimony because I don't feel like I have this like crazy radical story to share, which maybe that is the relatable part. Not everybody has this like radical.
Says the one that's literally died.
I do have some crazy stuff in my story after I guess I've like come to know Jesus, but yeah, I don't have this like crazy radical like come to Jesus moment. So I'm always like, what is my story? Which always just like, it makes me like not unsure to share. I just don't know, I guess, fully what I'm sharing, but we're going to try today.
Yeah. No, it's going to be great. So why don't you tell us your story?
Okay, we'll get on into it. So I know I've said I don't have this like crazy radical come to Jesus moment. And I don't actually have any memory of not believing in God. Like I have no memory of ever thinking he doesn't exist or he wasn't real. All my memories, like as far back as I can think, I can remember being in church and always remembering that God is real. Now, that being said, I did not grow up in this like crazy, like Jesus loving, Bible following home. I actually grew up in a very like chaotic and abusive household. So I guess that is like the very confusing thing about my story. But when talking with my mom recently, she actually, this is like only a year or two ago, she shared with me why we were at church at such a young age and why we were put in like the Christian school that I grew up in. She shared recently, and I had never known this. So I guess that's where my story starts, and that's where I will start. But I grew up, going to church and going to a Christian elementary school. And we went to this Christian elementary school because me and my brother had severe food allergies, nut allergies specifically. And I know there's probably some of you listening right now that are like, oh, one of those people, the people with the nut allergies that think the world revolves around them.
So you don't know what Reese's peanut butter tastes like?
Oh my gosh, yeah, let's just get that out in the open now. I've never had peanut butter, never ever, not accidentally, not on purpose. I've never eaten peanut butter. I don't know what Reese's tastes like, and I've never had Nutella. And I'm not sad about it. So
you're not missing out much.
I know you do say that, but that's the uncommon opinion. But anyways, my mom she wanted us to go to this specific Christian elementary school because it was already peanut free. And my mom was talking with her friend, and she was saying, yeah, this school is peanut free, but at the time you had to attend a church to go to this school. So that is why we ended up going to church from as long as I can remember, is because my mom wanted us in this school because it was peanut free and we needed to attend a church at the time. So I just think that is so crazy. That's just like God being in my life before I even knew of him. Like the thing that I hate my food allergies. If you know me personally, you know that I really hate my food allergies. It's like the thing I hate about myself the most. And I think it's so cool and crazy that God used even that to bring me to know him. Because I think if it weren't for that, I would have never gone to this Christian elementary school. I would have never gone to church. My parents had knew of God and knew the Lord to some degree and had some knowledge about God and the church prior to me being born. Yeah. But I don't know how evident or real that was in their life. And I don't know if they would have ever gone back to church or gone to church if it weren't for trying to get me into this Christian elementary school. So anyways, I went to this Christian elementary school. We were going to church. I have so many memories of Sunday school, and I have so many memories of just the basic Bible stories, or the classic Bible stories, like Noah's Ark, Adam and Eve, Moses, all those stories. I know the back of my hand, and I credit that all to the fact that I went to Sunday school as a child, and I remember the felt boards in Sunday school.
Classic.
Yeah, the felt boards, and there was the one old shepherd man who was Moses and Noah, and he played all the characters. He was quite famous. Yeah, I know all of those things because I went to Sunday school. And I think I want to just take a second and encourage people, if you have young kids, get them hearing the word at the youngest age possible, because I said, I don't have a memory of not knowing those stories. I don't have a memory of not being in Sunday school and all of those things. I'm so happy that I have the knowledge of those stories just from it being taught to me at such a young age.
Yeah, you're planting those biblical truths at a very young age without you even realizing it. And I think it's super cool that you're going to get into it a little bit more, but your mom started going to church to save your life
from a nut allergy.
From a nut allergy, but really it snowballs into saving your life spiritually. So it's kind of cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Kudos to my mom. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, have your kids in church. I hear so many people that say oh, when they're older, I'll send them to kids church while we're at church, or we'll go to church when we're older. It doesn't matter now. It so does matter now. I'm just so thankful for that part of my story and my testimony. But anyways, we eventually actually did stop going to church. The specific church that we were at, we did stop going. And I do have memories of that, of not going to church, obviously. And there was a couple years there where we weren't going anywhere, but we were still attending our, the Christian elementary school. My mom was not about to pull me out so I could go eat a peanut at another school. But anyways, we were still going there. And, my home life at the time was, like I said, I grew up in a very abusive, chaotic, horrible situation. And nobody knew what was going on, but we were still going to this Christian school, and that is where this family started attending this Christian school, and they were actually pastors of a church, and I don't even remember all the details or how it came to be, but they just became my second family and really brought me in. And I know that if it weren't for God using them and them being obedient to the Lord, that I wouldn't be sitting here today, because they showed me a warm home. They showed me a loving home. They showed me a safe place, like a peaceful place. And yeah, I have a memory of sitting at their dinner table one night, and we were eating fajitas. And I just remember being like, this is like a safe and peaceful place. And I often think, were they like, oh my gosh, this extra mouth we constantly are feeding? Because I was at their house all the time, because we were going to youth group, we were going to church. Like, they got my family and us back into church, and they showed us what it was like to actually be a Christian outside of a Sunday.
Yeah.
And to actually live out what you believed. Like, my understanding previous to them and previous to that church was that you had to go to church to check off your box, and like, it didn't affect any other part of your life. It certainly didn't affect my home life. It didn't affect, it didn't affect anything beyond that. So this family, like, really bringing me in and my family in, got us back into church and showed us what it is like to actually serve and know the Lord. But anyways, I was saying, I wonder if they were ever like, this extra mouth we constantly have to feed. But like, some of my best memories of just experiencing like love in their home was when they like had me at their dinner table to share a meal. And yeah.
No, that's super cool. I think, first of all, knowing them, they definitely didn't be like, oh, another
I don't think I ate
mouth
that much.
yeah.
I definitely ran their hot water bill up whenever I would sleep over.
Probably, and then we'll probably see a bill for that much later. So yeah, no, but I think it's cool that at a young age you were able to make that friendship out of the blue, and you were just able to love on each other like sisters, like best friends, and then you started getting plugged in. And I'm sure like an invite to youth or to their ministry, stuff like that happened. And then from you either just wanting to be plugged in this church or this other family, or just wanting to escape from your home and your situation, you got plugged in. So it was this way for you to escape what was negative, and you were like, this is what a Christian family should be. It isn't just a Sunday check off the box. Like, you're doing that maintenance, you're practicing what you're preaching.
Yeah.
You're loving on everyone. So how did that trickle into your everyday life? How did that affect your decisions, and how did that change the way you spoke with your family?
I think like for the first little bit, like when I was still a teenager, I don't know if it changed much of how I interacted with my family at home. I think I was like too young to understand. Like, I was just so angry about my circumstances and my situation, and I was never going to behave better or do differently when I was still being treated the way that I was. So I don't think there was an immediate change in those couple of years. But I would say now, like, it has taught me that I am like to live with an open house, and I am to live with my door wide open, and not figuratively. We live in Canada and it's quite cold, but not literally, but figuratively, I should say. But yeah, to just, who can I have at my dinner table? Who can I just love on? And how I behave outside of church on a Sunday or youth on a Friday is so, so important, because I got to spend so much time with them. Who they were on Sunday and who they were during the week were the same people. And that is very convicting to me, and something that I always strive and want to do. But yeah, it's really taught me just who can I bring into my house, because I don't know how much it could potentially change their life, and what I could expose them to, and the safe place that I can provide. And I think if you have a safe home and a healthy family that loves Jesus, like, don't close your door. Don't be standoffish. Like, open your door, because it saved my life, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool. And how would you say that your decision to kind of start to, first of all, realize that you were in an unhealthy family, to be like, I'm going to break away from this, I'm going to break the curse, and I'm going to move across the world and just say, peace out, and like go into ministry full time? Because, and like people watching this or listening to this, they might be like, oh yeah, like, okay, we've all suffered some kind of abuse, without getting into like too much detail in that, maybe future later on, episode 25, something like that. But it's not all easy. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
How did you let that shape your decision to just kind of not really cut ties, but be like, I'm my own person. I'm going to seek after God. And how has that affected you? Did it get easy? Like, what was it, like sunshine and rainbows the rest of your life once you finally turned 18 and moved to Australia?
No, I wish I could say yes, but no. Yeah, I think similar to, like, you asked a long question, so it'll have a long answer.
Sorry.
But similar to, like, I have no memory of, like, not knowing the Lord. I also have, like, I can't remember this moment where I'm like, well, I can remember this moment where I decided to go into ministry, but it was so early on in my journey that I didn't even know what I was saying I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do it. And there was just no swaying me from that. And I have no memory, again, this is so weird, but I have no memory of, like, I picked the school that I wanted to go to. And I committed to going to that school. I knew nothing about this school. I have no reason why I picked that school. I don't even know where I heard about this school.
Yeah.
But it was on the other side of the world. And I was like, that is where I'm going. I'm a very sure of myself person, like a quick decision maker. Like, if
you are.
If you were to ask me, like, do you want to go drive to, if DJ were to say to me, you want to drive to Florida tonight, I'd be like, absolutely, like, pack the car. Like, I am a spur of the moment, like, I'll say yes to anything type deal. So yeah, I just always knew I wanted to be in ministry, it felt like, and I knew what school I wanted to go to, and I was picking up and I was going no matter what my bank account looked like. And I don't even know if it was faith. I think it was just like, this is what I'm doing. I need to get away. Yeah. I don't know if I could say it's faith. That would be cool to be like, I went on faith. Maybe if I thought a little bit harder about it. I don't know. But I was like, I'm going no matter what. And yeah, I ended up on the other side of the world committing to doing ministry. And again, I don't feel like there's ever been these like big defining moments in my life. I just feel like it's been such a slow process of the Lord, like giving me a little bit more and me continuing to follow him and walk with him. And it's just been like this slow journey that I know will continue for the rest of my life, because we've never arrived with our relationship with Jesus. We've never gotten there. We will never until we're in heaven worshiping him. So I know that will continue to be my story, is that he will continue to give me opportunity to trust in him and to give a little bit more to him and to stretch myself a little bit further.
Yeah.
But no, my life has not been like, the other part of your question hasn't been sunshine and rainbows since then. I say I don't have this big come to Jesus moment, but in my adult life, I have so many crazy, miraculous stories of how the Lord has literally physically saved my life. And yeah.
Yeah, no. So yeah, you don't have this like necessarily coming to moment, like Jesus appears to you in the path.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you always knew about him and you were always clinging on to him no matter all the trials and like heartaches and like tough times that you've gone through in your life. You're always holding on to him.
Mm-hmm. I just knew there was something there.
Yeah. And there's stories like your story that anybody else would be like, how could God ever let this happen to you? Mm-hmm. Especially like, first of all, when you move to another country and you're all alone, there's stories that like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
First of all, how did you survive? And you should get into that.
Yeah.
And then also in our marriage and how the walk that we've kind of gone through together is a lot of people, like, even that we talk to from our past, they're like, how can you still believe? But it's cool because you choose not to let go and you see more of the grace.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like from the time I moved to Australia to where we are in life now, that's where I went to school, where I met DJ. We went to school in Australia. From that time on, I just feel like, we've had these just crazy stories of like, wow. I often think, do people think everything bad happens to her?
Oh, yeah.
Like, if something bad's going to happen, I know my mom would say the same. My mom is like, I worry about just the worst case scenario with you, because worst case scenario, I feel often happens to me. But I guess I'll share a little bit of a couple stories, I guess, and how we still have faith in God. But when I first moved to Australia, I was there for a couple weeks. I moved at 18, like fresh out of high school, and I got hit by a car in Australia.
True story.
And I flew 2 lanes into oncoming traffic. My shoes were no longer on my feet. I don't know why. My brand new iPhone I had just purchased, and like my school bag scattered across the street, and I got hit. I was on the sidewalk, okay? I was not on the road. Everyone assumed that I had looked the wrong way when crossing the street because they drive on the opposite side of the road there. No, I was on the sidewalk, okay? So I'm on the sidewalk. I get hit by a car at the busiest time of day on the busiest street in that area. Flew into oncoming traffic that was rushing towards me as I'm like laying on the road, and people would not have time to stop. I don't even know what happened, but I do know that I got up without my shoes and without my phone and without my belongings and ran myself back to safety. And the paramedics said when they got the phone call that they knew that they were coming to scrape a body off of
They came with a body bag.
Yeah, like they came to scrape a body off the road, not to be graphic, but they said there's no way if someone got hit on this road at this time at rush hour that they would be alive. And not that I walked away injuryless. I had injuries, and actually God miraculously healed one of those injuries. But where was I going with this? I don't know. It's like
because you were 18 years old. This was your second week of college.
Yeah,
if that. Second week.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? It's all blur.
So everything is new to you.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much on your own.
Yeah.
Any like a phone call back home was the 12-hour difference.
Yeah.
So everybody's sleeping.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have nothing there.
Yeah.
So it was very, very scary.
Yeah.
And a lot of, like, when this happens to people that travel internationally, oftentimes they'll just pack up and they'll go.
Funny story, like people, like there's usually someone who gets hit by a car that attends the school. We went to Hillsong, who attends the school. There's usually someone who gets hit by a car once a semester. And it's
true.
It's true. Most of them are looking the wrong way when they cross the street. I, however, would like to make sure it's specified I was not. I was on the sidewalk. But a teacher had said to me, most people in your situation at your age who had just moved here, pack up and go home.
Yeah. Yeah. But you had faith and you knew that you were there.
Yeah.
God had plans for you there.
The only way I was leaving was over my dead body.
Yeah.
Like
which was close.
Which was close.
Fun fact, they actually rerouted that sidewalk to make it safer because of Jade.
That is true.
So the school always joked that it was called Jade's Way.
It's very true.
So,
well, I think that was more a you and me joke, but yes, they did.
It caught on.
They did change the sidewalk where I got hit by the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think ever since then, that has been a snowball effect of like medical things happening to me that are like, how on earth are you still alive? Like even the paramedics saying it's a miracle you're here. And how injureless I did walk away. I had injuries, but they were minor. Like I had some tissue damage in my knees, some road rash. I had dislocated my elbow, but popped it back in when I was getting up to run back to the sidewalk. And my elbow hurt for a little bit, but someone had prayed over me and my elbow was healed. But yeah, that moment started a snowball effect of like just medical things after medical things. And once we were married, like we experienced a lot of like medical trauma that I don't know how much you want to get into that, but
No, go.
well,
It's a part of your story. It's part of your testimony.
Yeah.
Your life. It's the real hitting thing. 'Cause
Yes.
other stuff is easy to laugh off.
Yes.
But the times where like going to be completely transparent, where we were both like throwing in the towel,
Yeah.
like we couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So yeah, once we got married, we experienced so many miscarriages.
Yes.
And a miscarriage that pretty much took my life, just due to complications. And again, another miracle that I am even here. I mean, I feel like it's better you tell that story because I don't have as much memory of that story.
Which I think is a miracle that you don't remember.
Is a miracle I don't remember, yeah. So just I had a very traumatic miscarriage that led to me needing like severe instantaneous medical intervention, or I was not going to live. And thankfully I was able to get that because I'll let you say, a mystery doctor, I don't know.
Yeah. So there was definitely like God stepped in that moment and orchestrated everything. I believe that 100%. So Jade was bleeding out in our bathroom, and we call the ambulance. They come here all nonchalant. It's kind of
you said I can't laugh it off, but here I am probably going to be giggling through this.
It's a way of our coping mechanism. It's the height of COVID, so like I'm trying to keep my distance, and they're like trying to come in the door, but they're like, "Are you sick?" No, like, but my wife is currently dying, so she's gonna be sick. So yeah, they get her to the hospital, and nobody's taking her seriously, but she is continually bleeding. She filled up the bathtub a couple times, and it was really gross. Gonna be real, but she's laying on the gurney, and this nurse is just trying to take her blood and trying to train somebody to take her blood.
Yeah, there was a student nurse there trying to take my blood. Obviously, she could not find a vein because I don't think I had blood coursing through my limbs anymore.
So Jade is like starting to turn gray, and I'm yelling at like anybody like to like help her and take her seriously, like to get a doctor in. And then all of a sudden, like this nonchalant doctor, he wasn't wearing any scrubs or anything like that, like very clean cut, gray hair. I could, like, his face is imprinted in my brain. I will never forget him.
Anyways, I sadly will never remember him.
Because Jade was out at this point. She had passed out, and it was scary because she was saying like her last words before she passed out were like, "Don't let anything happen to me." And I was like, "I'm not, like, God's got you." And I'm like literally praying like, "You got her right. You got her right, God." And then this guy walks by, this doctor, and he just like snaps his fingers, and he says like, "You go here, you go there." Didn't work on that floor, didn't work in that hospital. Apparently, so like while everything was happening, he was like, "I was just coming to visit a friend." So nobody knows who he was.
I actually don't know that.
Yeah. So he was literally just coming to see a friend. Nobody knows who he was. And he's not. Yeah. No, I've told you this. But he's not like on anything. So Jade goes like rushing to emerge, and they start immediately giving her blood. But they didn't know her blood type, or they didn't have time to test. But then there was this other nurse who was higher up, just like, again, snapped her fingers, and this poor, like, I guess a student just starts running down the hallways trying to get blood.
She could not find it.
She couldn't find it, but then they're like, "Hey, well, we don't have time, so just give her this blood." And Jade ended up having a reaction to it because I couldn't test it. So that kind of went all down the hill. But yeah, it was really crazy. And then finally they got her stable enough to have surgery. Well, stable after she flatlined twice, had to be resuscitated, got the blood in. It was 4 units of blood.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was 4 units of blood. They stabilized her enough to the point where she could go have surgery. And that surgeon wasn't even practicing that surgery anymore.
Yeah, he was, I think about him all the time. He was technically a student because he was studying a second.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but
So
he was studying into a second field.
He was a doctor in this field, but he wasn't practicing anymore. But he happened just to be there and said, I'm going to do surgery on this girl. And
The kindest, nicest,
yeah. But yeah,
doctor.
all throughout that, it was literally just because I think like God was there in that moment, and like we were praying and just being like, God, like clearly you're not done with Jade. Her story still has to be told, and the lives that you're gonna use through her are gonna be like we can't count. So it was cool to see how like after the fact, can you reflect, and it's still like I still struggle with that and still like struggle with those images.
It's harder for you because you have memory of that
Yeah.
time, and I don't have memory of that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. But I still like hold on to that 40-something-year-old, salty brown hair. Who's that guy from Grey's Anatomy who had the gray hair?
McSteamy.
He looked
Ask
like.
me his real name. I couldn't tell you, but McSteamy.
He looked like McSteamy. But so that's how I remember him. But yeah, it was definitely God there every step of the way, and just seeing like his love, and like we didn't give up hope, and like yes, we just had a really traumatic miscarriage and we lost a child
after having 2 previous miscarriages.
Yeah, so this was our 3rd miscarriage. And then yeah, like we were still obviously praying because we were like in the storm, and I wasn't like, everybody was praying for you. Everybody knew instantly. So yeah, at the end of it, we're still like, we had to make that decision. Like we just went through quite the storm, but we have to decide right here and now that we aren't going to let that define us, that we are going to still choose to praise God and to worship him. So, and that was hard. Yeah.
I think though you're like saying it correctly, like it has to be a conscious decision. And I don't know if there's this perception out there, and I know a lot of people walk away or step away from their faith because something bad happens in their life. And you need to decide before the bad thing happens what you're going to choose. Because I know the choice that I've made, and I know the choice that you have, or you know the choice you have made, that I am holding on to my faith no matter what storm comes my way. It does not mean that I am not. There have been times I've been angry at God. There have been times that I have like questioned, like, why is this happening to me? Why is this what you have chosen for me? But I have decided that every part of my life will be used for his glory. Like if the Lord can use my nut allergy to bring me to know him before I know him, then what else could he use? Like I'm going to make sure that every part of my life, good, bad, the glamorous parts, the ugly parts, are used for his glory. And I am so adamant about that. And I remember saying to my mom, even if I never have a kid, if I never have a baby, because it really was looking like that for us for a long time. But thankfully we have a son now, and we're pregnant with another baby now. But I remember saying to her, even if I never have a kid, if somebody comes to know Jesus through my story and through my circumstances, then I'll walk this journey 10 times over. Because if it saves one person's life and brings them to know Jesus, then I'll continue to walk this road. And I think that's the decision that we have to make. Like it says in the Bible, in this world, you will have trouble. Like it is guaranteed to us. That's actually my favorite Bible verse. It is guaranteed to us. So as Christians, if you're a Christian listening today, you can't step away because you have trouble. You are going to have trouble. That is just the fallen world that we live in. And looking back at my life, like I've had, like I've said, I've come from like a very broken family, a very broken home. And there is still, God is still in that.
Yeah.
And you can still choose to hold on to your faith, or you can choose to turn to him if you don't yet know him, because he's there. And yeah, he can use absolutely any part of your life. And I'm determined that that will be my story, that any part of my life will be used for his glory.
Yeah. And even saying that doesn't make it easy.
No,
It
like,
makes it like it's still very, very difficult. And
yeah. Like, I
luckily,
don't, if I could have chosen before I was born, like to assemble my life in all these different
no, yeah.
pieces, I would have never chosen that for myself. It, like that season that we walked through of like infertility and loss,
It's
I would
still
have to
heartbreaking.
say is the absolute hardest season that
Yeah.
I've ever walked through in life.
Yeah.
I don't think anything comes close to that. And I wouldn't choose it.
Yeah. Oh,
But
definitely not. You definitely wouldn't choose that, and like seeing everything and like going through that as well in a different way. I even like when you were flatline, I was still praying that like God, like I will serve you. But please save my wife. That would be great. But I remember saying like, "Okay, no matter what, like I'm going to serve you." And then even after, I think I was still dealing with it a lot longer, and
you
still
definitely were.
still having to say like, "Okay, like that sucked, but God, like I'm serving you." Don't feel that great right now, but I'll still serve you.
And I will say that's the difference, like in our stories. I will say for me, I am a very like, because I'm such a quick person, I am like, okay, God, what's next? Yeah,
Yeah.
I just had this horrible medical experience, like horrible. But what do you have next for me? And I feel like it was easier for me to just be like, well, that did happen, but I'm not thinking about it anymore. And now it's like Sunday and I'm like here to praise the Lord. But your, I feel like, situation was like, there wasn't as much, I'm here to serve the Lord so happily, but you were so authentic in your feelings, like, yeah, I'm showing up,
Yeah.
but I'm not happy about the situation I just came from.
Yeah.
Where I was like, what situation did I just come from?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was very much. But I think that's so, like, such a cool, like, I love that part of you and that part of your story is that you are so authentic in your feelings. Like, I'm still here and it is a struggle that I'm here, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I think that's just as valuable. I think that's even more valuable that, like, as much as I was able to, I don't know, I didn't dwell on it the same. And that's just my personality. You, in the midst of your grief, not that I was not grieving, but in the midst of your grief and your sadness and your anger, we're
Yeah.
still like, I'm here, Lord.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
You should be proud of that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We're going places through God,
Yes.
with God.
Yes.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. And I would say that is like kind of the, I don't know, like the theme of my life or my testimony is just that I feel like it's never been anything I have done. There's never been, like, I don't feel like I had to give up this huge, big thing or addiction or part of my life and turn to Jesus. I feel like the theme has just been that he has faithfully and graciously shown up, and I believe that he is doing that for everybody. Like,
Yeah.
it says in the Bible that it's the Lord's will that no one should perish, meaning I really think he is knocking on everybody's door and he has made himself evident to everybody in different ways. And I don't want people to miss that. I want people to look at their life, and maybe there's something in your past that you're really struggling with, and that's why you are choosing not to believe in the Lord, or you're angry at him right now because you went through this horrible situation, or you grew up in this horrible family, or whatever it is. I promise you that he is there. And I know that that's so hard to see. And I think even we could say, well, like, how was the Lord there when I was like, when we were in those moments? But he really is there. His desire is that nobody shall perish and pass. Like, he wants everybody to spend eternity with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he's knocking on everybody's door. I know he is evident to everybody in different ways,
Yeah.
but he is there.
Yeah.
So don't miss it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really good.
That's my story. I don't feel like I really, I've condensed it, but
Yeah.
those are the big parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I think it's very encouraging to share, because a lot of the times people think they can just become like stale or stagnant or plateau in their faith, because of like, yes, like, I'm here, Lord, I'm gonna serve you. I've gone through stuff in my life, not happy, but I'm still gonna serve you. But then that can quickly trickle into the Sunday morning Christians, which trickles into the holiday Christians, or the Bible app, just like the
Verse of the
pop-up.
day.
Yeah, the verse of the day.
Hey, if that's where you're at.
No, that's great if
keep
that's where you're
growing.
at. That's a lot more than a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I just think it's cool because you're like, it's not that we're just like, okay, here I am, like I'm showing up. It's like, no, like you're giving still your all to God.
Yeah.
And you're willing to share, and that we're willing to like move on from the past, and we don't dwell on it.
And that's not to say that the past doesn't hurt.
No.
And I think that is the thing. I can sit here today and say that there are things in my past that hurt.
Yeah. And you still think about them.
And I still think about them.
100%.
Doesn't mean I haven't given forgiveness or trusted the Lord again in those ways. Just because something hurts still doesn't mean that it can still hurt, and
God's still using it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's things that I am still praying and believing for, and miracles in my family situation that I have not yet seen.
Yeah.
And they're still hurt, but yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that,
The
but
story isn't ended. God is still working in it, and he's still there.
you can still serve him through that hurt.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Wow, what would
Thank you so much for sharing.
now we're back to the awkwardness. What would be maybe your parting words or like your piece of advice from what we've shared? Like, how would you encourage people with that? Putting you on the spot, the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be interviewing you. No, just, well, first of all, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're feeling, is first of all, like, see what the Bible says. Like, seek God and just pray. Not even like if you've never opened up the Bible, like, just start talking to God. It doesn't have to be super formal. There's no, like, if you're just starting off, just start talking to him. And yes, he's got it, even though he knows what you're going through. It's still open up that conversation with him. But then I would say, like, surround yourself with people that do care about you, and there are a lot more people that care about you than you think, and that can build you up, whether it is your significant other, your family, or somebody in the church, a leader. Even if you Google a church and you send them a message, because having people around you to pray for you is also a huge win, because I could only imagine if we didn't have certain people in our lives praying for us, like, God still, like, could shine through, but that definitely helped us in those moments.
Yeah.
But I think putting God first above all else is the biggest thing. Put God before, even when you're having a really good day or a successful day at work or in your family, it's not because of anything that you're doing. Like, it's God, even for the small things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And God can't be on the back burner. And I think that's what we've been trying to say, is that if he's just on the back burner when things come up in your life and a hardship comes up, like, that's when we start to slip away potentially and walk away. But like you said, make him number one in your life, because those moments will come. They are promised to us. Those hard moments will be there. So make the decision now what you're going to do in those hard moments. Yeah. Well, that's our story. That's my story. Maybe DJ will share more of his story one day. He also has a really crazy cool testimony that I'm sure people would love to hear.
We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, thank you for joining in my story. And we'll be back in a couple weeks with another guest that shall not be me, because I have nothing left to say, I guess.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Part 2.
Part 2. No. So if you are on the fence about sharing your testimony, sharing your story, know that every part of your life really truly can be used for the glory of God. And coming from someone who asks people to share their story, but was hesitant to share my own because I'm like, what is my story? Know your story. Think about your story. Think about your testimony. And no matter what it is, whether it is this big hallelujah, come to Jesus moment, or it's just this like slow burn of like slowly getting to know the Lord, know that every part of your story can be used for the glory of God. So do not be hesitant in sharing your story, because I know when we give it to Him, that's the thing, we have to make the choice to give those things to Him to be used for His glory most of the time, that it will. And it won't come back, won't return void, that investment. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all in a couple weeks.
Peace.
Bye.